Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's May 10, 2022, and this is episode 777. Today I share a conversation with Andrew S. Gibson, who I spoke with for the first time exactly 10 years ago, and then again 8 years ago as he released a few of his early ebooks, alongside mine when we both wrote for Craft and Vision. A lot has changed since then, but Andrew is pretty much the same, so it was nice to talk to him again. And I messed up the recording. The first 20 minutes or so of this conversation was recorded with my webcam microphone following a discussion with my accountant, and like a fool, I forgot to switch back to my podcasting mic. You'll hear the difference as we switch back, but I hope it doesn't spoil it too much for you. I've also shared some photos on the blog from Andrew that he's kindly shared with us to illustrate our conversation a little. You can find those at mbp.ac/777. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Andrew S. Gibson. So Andrew, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be here.
It's been absolutely ages. I haven't checked how long, but it's what I'll do is I will look up the original post for our chat that we did. It must have been at least 10 years ago.
I think so. More than 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So how have you been?
Good. Good. A little bit surprised by how quickly time flies, but everything is good.
Have you found that time has gone quickly during the pandemic?
Not really, but that is mainly because we have a 4-year-old to look after.
So time's going quickly anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of going quickly anyway, but you tend to also take it one day and 1 week at a time, because there's always something new to deal with. It's kind of interesting actually, because I've never really been into mindfulness, this idea of concentrating on the present and not really thinking about the past or the future. But I found when you have a toddler, you are concentrating on the present all the time and not really thinking about the past or the future at all, because you just simply don't have time. You just have to get through the day or the week or the month.
We don't have kids, so I can't relate to that in that sense. But I've found that the last 2.5 years since, the pandemic really got big for us here in Japan on the last day of my winter tours 2.5 years ago. Right. And we sort of flew back, and then everyone was locked down days later. And this last 2.5 years for me has gone crazily fast. It's probably because of the things I've been doing. I've been working on stuff that is a little bit out of my usual comfort zone, and various things that I've been doing. And it seems as though the time, it's like, it's Monday, let's start the working week, even though I work over the weekends anyway. And then the next thing I know, it's like, okay, it's Friday. What happened to that week? It just goes really, really quickly.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly the working week goes.
Yeah. And then the weekend is almost as fast. It's like, I know it's a 5-to-2 ratio, but it's even faster than that. It's just crazy stuff.
Yeah. No, it's for me, because I'm looking after our boy on the weekend. So it goes fast. Yeah.
Well, excellent. Good stuff. We spoke in the past. I can't remember if it was once or twice, but you, as we just briefly mentioned, you used to write for Craft and Vision when they still had their shop doors open. As I did. And I think you have considerably more books. I think you had like 6 or 7 books in their library, was it?
It was actually 9, believe it or not.
Wow, yeah. So, that's good. You were busy there. And I remember reading at least 2 or 3 of them. And you've updated one. And that's why we're here to talk today, as well as just sort of catching up. But tell us about Up Close. You've released a second edition. Have you completely rewritten it or just updated it here and there? Tell us about what you've done.
It's more or less completely rewritten. it was surprising as I got into the book. I thought it would just be a simple case of updating it, but you know how it goes. The first edition was actually published about 10 years ago, which is
Mm,
amazing to me. I can't believe how quickly the time has gone. But of course, I've taken more photos in that time. I use a different camera system now, so the equipment I use has changed,
mm,
and my thought processes have kind of changed and evolved in that time. And then all the gear has changed as well. There's now more macro lenses, more close-up lenses to choose from, more macro flashes. So in the end, I ended up more or less rewriting the whole thing.
mm, mm. I imagine that that's what I would probably do. I have thought a number of times of rewriting, making the print,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the technology, it's still very relevant, but I could just update it to make people feel more comfortable that it's current knowledge. But I know if I started it, I'd just pretty much rewrite the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, to me, it's probably something that I should do. It's more going to be okay. Well, I'm no longer able to go out on tour. I'm no longer able to do other things. Now I'll do it.
Yes.
Um, so what I'm going to do is we don't really have a plan. I'm going to start by just skimming through a few pages and then take a deeper dive into some of the topics that you've covered. I wanted to start just by saying how beautiful it is. You've made a really nice job of it.
Oh,
Have
thank
you?
you.
Oh, you're welcome. Have you laid it out yourself, or did you hire someone to do it?
No, I do it myself. It's
Yeah,
one of the things that I think, I've been doing ebooks since 2010,
yeah,
uh, which is when I wrote the first ebook for Craft and Vision. And I've just found that by looking at published photography books and just
yeah.
kind of, I also bought a couple of books on graphic design as well. And just by,
Mm,
looking and observing and see what they're doing, I've just
mm,
come up with my own way of doing things, which seems to work
mm,
quite well.
yeah. What are you using? What is it?
InDesign.
InDesign. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's see. I've been doing. I release an ebook every week, almost every week. Not a full ebook. It's like I call it an
Yes.
ebook. It's like it's my posts, but in PDF form. I do them in 4K, and
Yes.
I've been using Affinity Publisher, which I found initially a little bit of a learning curve because I used InDesign as well,
Yes.
but it's actually pretty good. It's once you get used to it, I think it's probably easier to get quick results with than
Yes.
InDesign, but obviously not as much. It's not like a real standard. So there's a lot less supporting sort of surrounding or peripheral services,
Yes.
and so I think InDesign is probably the way to go still. But I am enjoying working with Publisher.
Yeah, I
Um,
downloaded it. The thing for me is I need to have that backward compatibility so I can open
mm,
the older files in
yeah,
InDesign.
yeah,
Otherwise I'll be starting completely afresh with my Lightroom books and things like that. And
yeah.
it would just take too long.
One thing that they do that is actually really useful is you can open the PDF and it will convert that to an editable document. But
Yes, I've seen that.
it's
Yes.
not laid out. It's not quite as good. It's a bit
Hmm.
of a pain. To really do it properly, you'd have to take all of your text and run it into new text fields and boxes and
Yes.
things. And
Hmm.
I mean, I've done a few of my tour ebooks that way, tour guidebooks that way.
Hmm.
But it's a little bit. It's like pulling teeth to a degree. So yeah, I think you're making the right decisions, especially with your older books. I've considered going back to the Adobe Suite as well, just because there's a few things there. I stopped it. I got rid of everything but Photoshop a few years ago
Hmm.
when they started to bump the prices up without telling people. Um,
Right.
but it's kind of one of those cutting your nose off to spite your face situations.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to your book. So, Up Close, A Guide to Macro and Close-Up Photography, second edition by Andrew S. Gibson. Very nicely laid out. It's 108, or you've got 106 pages in the index. It's 108 pages long. It's a nice sized book. And let's see, I have had a skim through, and I wanted to talk about a couple of areas It was on a technical note. I enjoyed the section where you talked about crop factors, understanding crop factors.
Yes.
What sort of system do you use? Are you using a full-size system, a crop system?
Fujifilm X at the moment.
And what is that? Is that like 2 times, or is that? Oh no, the X. Is that medium format?
That's no, that's the other system they have. No, I'm using the APS-C system.
Okay.
So I have I use a Samyang macro lens, 100mm macro lens, which gives you 1-to-1 magnification, but you don't get any benefit from the crop sensor with that particular lens because it's designed for that camera system. You would only get that benefit if you were using a macro lens that was designed for a full frame camera.
I see.
Yeah, such as if you were using Canon or Nikon and you had the choice between using full frame bodies and APS-C bodies. That's when you get the advantage.
I see. So is it like not a true 100mm? Is it actually a different focal length, or is it just?
No, it's 100mm, but it's just designed for the APS-C sensor. I see. So you get 1-to-1 magnification. It's not
with the APC.
With the APS-C, yeah. I've tested it, so I can see that's what you get.
Yeah. I can see that you've got the steel rule. I did the same thing. Using a ruler to do it. It's killing two birds with one stone, right?
That's right.
So okay, good stuff. I am gonna nice one of the dandelion puffball thing. That's got more seeds on it than the ones we have here. I don't see those with that many seeds on here so much.
Really?
Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it, how things vary?
Yeah. I've actually got one. I plucked one as I walked back from the river a few days ago. I've got one behind me that I've been photographing. Tell us about this on the gear side.
Yes.
There's a weird looking 4.5 times super macro on page 18. What's that?
Well, this is something I found, what I was doing when I was writing this part of the book is going on to B&H Photo Video and other websites and just looking to see what macro lenses are available now, because there's a lot more available now than there were 10 years ago for various different camera brands. So that's quite interesting. It's like, there's a lot of innovation as well. I'm not sure how you pronounce it exactly, but there's a company called Lauer, which makes some very inexpensive and some very nice and kind of innovative macro lenses. And this is just one that came up in the in the search, and it looks just like so interesting if you're into this kind of high magnification photography, because it's it's not a macro lens. It just gives you about 4 to 4.5 times magnification, but it's dirt cheap as well. It's about $200. So it's not an expensive optic, and so it's something, if it's available for your camera mount, it's something you can buy and just have a play with at that price. So I thought that was quite interesting. But it's just a good example of something that exists now that didn't exist 10 years ago when I wrote the first edition of this book. Yeah.
Is that a manual aperture then on the front?
Yeah, it must be. I can't imagine there's anything automatic about it.
Yeah, that's very nice. I've got it out behind me here. I'm using the Canon 1 to 5 times 65mm lens.
Yes.
I've been using it for years and years, and I love diving in with that, like sub life size. I've been doing photos of this tiny little blue flower. It's about 3mm across, but going in and having it like 5 or 6mm in the middle of the frame, of a 35mm frame, of course.
Yes.
I love getting in like past life size. I've actually been doing a lot of microscope photography over the last year as well. That saved my sanity in the Corona days.
Yeah, you could write a book about that maybe and call it Up Really Close.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the work I've been doing, when you convert it to the same sort of thing, like from life size being 1-to-1 or 1 times, a lot of the work I've been doing has been 200, 300, 400 times life size. It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I've even bought the chemicals and the dyes and things to do blood tests. I've checked and tested my own blood and find out which kind of white corpuscles I have and things like that. It's really wacky stuff. It doesn't make very good photos though.
No,
Some
no,
of
it
it
sounds
does.
interesting. I didn't know you
Uh,
could test your own blood.
well, it's not so much testing it, but looking at it.
Right,
You can see all of the corpuscles, and there's different types of white corpuscles. So you
right.
can, if you count the cores in there, you can tell what they are: one core, two cores, and things, and they all
Okay.
have like different names. It's fascinating.
Mm. I do remember
Plankton as well.
seeing. Yeah, I do
Sorry.
remember when I was a kid, I had a microscope, just a cheap one, of course, but and
Mm,
being able to smear blood and other things across the slides and having a look at it. It was all very
yeah,
interesting.
it's amazing stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing a
Oh,
grown-up
I did.
version of it.
Exactly, yeah. But no, I was looking at plankton as well. Plankton was fascinating. I'm going to get some, as it warms up, I'm going to go and get another couple of jars of the sludge at the bottom of the river,
Right.
because that contains incredible stuff.
Mm.
Okay, back to your book.
Yes.
Let's keep going. What are you writing about on page 21? We've got the rose shot there.
Yes.
I love doing those rose shots, but it's
Mm.
slightly sort of shallow depth of field on the front petals, and watch the rest sort of fade off into the bouquet.
Mm.
No focus limitation. If you use a regular lens with an extension tube or close-up lens, then the focus range is limited. You can't focus on infinity without removing the close-up. Yeah. Do you use extension tubes a lot?
Well, I have kind of two setups. I have the 100 mm macro lens, which is, for a relatively inexpensive lens as well. I mean, the image quality is amazing. It has something that the other kind of setups don't have. But the lens is, it's a bit heavy, and it's not the kind of thing you're going to carry with you if you're just, taking your camera out for the day somewhere. So I also use I have a 35 mm lens, which is a standard lens on the APS-C camera. And that works really well with an extension tube. So if you're out and you see like a nice flower or something, you think, oh, that would make a good close-up photo. I can just put the extension tube on it and get close. And it doesn't give you one-to-one magnification, but you don't need it for things like flowers. You can just get nice and close and have a play with it. And so that's more for those chance encounters when you see something you weren't expecting.
Yeah, the listeners will hear me sounding very different at the moment, because I've just I've just realized I was in my meeting with my accountant settings in Zoom, and have been recording this via the OBSBot tiny webcam for the last 20 minutes. I've just switched to this big microphone that I've got in front of me, so that'll sound a bit strange to begin with. Sorry about that, everybody. And because I was sidetracked there, I was completely, what you just said went straight over me, Andrew. I'm sorry. But let me go back. I'll move on and take a look at a few other things. So you seem to have struck a nice balance of technical and artistic in your book. It's you go from sort of the aesthetic side to the technical side quite nicely. Very much how if I was to write a book like this, it's pretty much how I would like to do it as well, because I've got a good technical knowledge, and I like the aesthetic, and I think you've married the two really nicely here.
I think it's important when you're writing a book like this to have plenty of photos to inspire people, but also things that are achievable. So most of the things that I photographed in this book, people, no matter where you live, people will be able to go out and take similar photos. And I think that's important as well. So everything's attainable, which has been my goal with this.
I think, that's definitely important. I think that my friend Don Komarechka has written a very good macro book that he released a few. Have you seen that?
I haven't bought it, but I've seen it. I'm aware of it.
But I mean, the thing is he's an amazing macro photographer. He's an amazing photographer, period. But he's some of the stuff that he does is probably out of reach for a lot of people, just from a patience. Not so much because it's so much better. I mean, it is, but it's the patience. He's got so much patience, and his ability to go in and figure out how to make certain things work that a lot of people really just don't even have the time or the patience to do. But yeah, I mean, what you've got here, you've definitely, it's good attainable stuff. It's not so much out of reach, but it's still beautiful. I love that photo of the 3 blue flowers on page 32. Avoid cheap extension tubes. Have you had problems with them?
No, not because I haven't bought any myself, but the ones I'm referring to there are the sort you can buy which don't have the electrical connection, so you can't stop the lens down.
Yeah, yeah.
As well as not having autofocus as well. But if you can't stop down, then you're kind of stuck, because for most photos you do need to stop down at least a bit.
Yeah.
But they might work okay if you have an older lens with a manual aperture ring. So they do have use. But if you're using it with your regular camera lenses, then it's limited use.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I always buy them, make sure that they've got the connections. So
yeah.
Let's see, what else do you have? Close-up lenses from page 36.
Yes.
What is a close-up lens from your? That's a header from that page.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes, well, the close-up lens, they're also called close-up filters as well, and they look like a filter, but they are technically a lens, and they screw into the front of your lens like a filter, and they're actually very good. When I used Canon, I had an 85mm lens, and I had a close-up filter for that, and I enjoyed using it. It's very convenient, again, for those times when you're just taking your camera out and you're not specifically planning to do close-up or macro photography, but you might see something which looks good in close-up, and you can just put it on, and there's no light loss like an extension tube, so you can keep your ISO a bit lower, and you don't have to take your lens off your camera, so you don't have to worry about dust getting in if you're in a dirty environment. And they're just so small and light, and the quality is really good as long as you're not shooting wide open. The quality is fantastic.
Excellent. I haven't used I mean, I've got some for my Rolleiflex, my film camera, but the last time I used that kind of close-up lens was probably 30 years ago when I first came to Japan. And I enjoyed it. It was, gave good results. I'm looking at a strange-looking rusty chap on page 43. What's that? Tell just out of interest.
Yes, it was a metal sculpture. It was in a sculpture garden where you kind of walk around, and they've got lots of sculptures from different artists. And it was very, very tiny. You obviously can't really tell from the picture, because there's nothing to show the scale. But I had to use the close-up filter on the lens to get that close.
Oh, wow.
I think it was only about like 2 centimeters high.
Wow.
It was small.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. One thing that I've never done, and I have always thought I should give a try, you cover on page 48, reverse mounting lenses. So
yes.
What's that all about? Tell us about that, like from a technical perspective.
Yes, well, this is what they call poor man's macro, because there's a potential to do it very, very cheaply. Although I found it's the least reliable method out of all of the different methods of getting up close, because it worked when I used Canon, but I haven't been able to get it to work on my Fujifilm cameras. So there's a bit of trial and error involved. But basically, if you get a 50mm lens and reverse it, it becomes a high-powered close-up lens. It works exactly the same way. It's basically like a magnifying glass. But it can give you really good quality, and you can mount it directly onto the camera, or you can mount it onto another lens. So when I used Canon, I had the 85mm lens reversed a 50mm lens onto it, and it worked really well. But it is for high magnification only when you get it to work like that, which is good if that's what you want. It's greater than one-to-one magnification. So you're talking about using tripods and finding the right to hold the camera steady, and finding the right subject and that sort of thing. And if you happen to have the lenses already, then all you need to do is buy the adapter ring, so it's dirt cheap. So if you can get it to work and you have the right lenses, then it's really good. But I haven't been able to get it to work on my Fujifilm cameras, no matter what combination of lenses that I try. So I think my conclusion is it seems to work best when you use lenses designed for full frame cameras on an APS-C body, because you have the larger image circle. because on my
Yeah.
Fuji films, I'm using lenses designed for those cameras, and
Yeah.
so the image circle is smaller, and I just get vignetting whenever I try it. So
I see.
yeah,
I
that
see.
seems to be the key to it. So
Yeah.
a lot of potential, but yeah, you have to have. Yeah, it's not worth going out and buying a lens just to reverse it. You may as well,
Right.
buy an extension tube or a macro lens.
Yeah.
But if you've got the gear already, it's something that could be a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah. Is it so? Is the adapter then? It's just like a double-sided screw for the filter. You screw it into one filter and then into the other.
Yeah, that's if you are mounting one lens onto another lens.
Yeah.
Then yes, it is just literally like the screw mount part of the filter, but on both sides, and so you can connect them together. And it seems to work best if your lenses have the same diameter, but you can get them to adapt different lens sizes as well. Or if you're putting the lens directly onto the camera, and you would need a lens with a manual aperture ring for that to work. So you're not stuck up wide open. Then it's just like a camera mount on one side and then a screw mount for the reverse lens on the other side.
Wow!
And you can get those for like less than $10 on Amazon and eBay. So it's really cheap.
I'll have to take a look. Although I don't really need it anymore, because if I need to get really close, I'm just throwing things under the microscope. So, it's still very interesting.
It seems to me to be the sort of thing. If you like playing with stuff, some photographers really like playing with things and trying out different combinations and using like loads of flashes and things like that. If you like to puzzle out that sort of thing, then you'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, there's also a photo of some bellows, and they look like Novoflex, I think it was. I've gone past it looking for the next thing I was going to talk about, but. So do those have the contacts as well for the lenses? It looks like it's passing the electronics through that.
Yes, the Novoflex ones do. And so they seem to be the best ones that you can buy that are currently available. And they have those electronic connections for you. So you can, stop your lens down if you need to. So that's very useful. They're a bit pricey though, but or you can buy older ones. If you search on YouTube, there's lots of photographers doing it. They use one, I think it's the PB6 Nikon bellows, which is still available, and then you're down into doing it manually, but that doesn't really matter as long as you have a lens on the front that you can stop down manually, such as an old 50mm lens, because for that sort of high magnification work, you're doing everything manually anyway. You're not going to use autofocus or stop the lens down if you've got a lens that already stops down itself. You don't really need the electrical connections. They're probably just a thing that's nice to have.
Not necessarily a question, but I love the photo on page 61. It looks like a kind of daisy, or not a daisy. Somewhat, maybe, I don't know if it's a gerbera or whatever.
I don't know. I'm not really big on flowers and their names and things like that. But that's a nice photo. That was taken in Kew Gardens, I think.
Oh, okay. We watched a documentary on the renovations they've been doing at Kew Gardens recently.
Right.
I love that one as well on the next page, 62. Looks like an orchid, or it's almost like an insect. You've got like the hairs, little knobbly bits and hairs on there. Almost looks
it's amazing the detail you can capture, isn't it, when you get up close? There's so much, so many things that you don't see. You have the naked eye, and then when you get up close, and not even working at 1-to-1 macro magnification, just getting up close, which is what you tend to do for flowers. I mean, that was quite a big flower. So if I was doing macro photography, you'd only have one small part of it, but what you see, it just opens up a new world, really, and that's quite interesting.
And I mean that for me has been the big fascination with microscopes, because I mean literally it's taking it even further into that extreme, because you can see things that just are not visible with the human eye.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just been so fascinating.
It's a chance to combine, in your case, like two hobbies as well, isn't it? Because looking at things through microscopes is that can become a whole pastime, but you can combine it with your photography,
Right.
and it helps you enjoy it on a different level.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it saved my sanity, because I'd never looked through a microscope until I bought one this time
Right.
last year. And but I needed something to help me to just to stay creative. I'd
Yes.
become, because we couldn't go out and do anything, I needed some reason to get the camera back in my hand.
Yeah.
So it was really, really nice to do that.
And I think that's a nice thing about close up and macro photography. A lot of it you can do at home.
Exactly.
And
You can do
yeah,
it in your
and
studio, can't you? Or in your garden.
exactly. Yeah. And with stuff you have lying around a house as well. You
Right.
don't have to go far to find interesting things. So it's ideal, like if it's the middle of winter, it's a rainy day or something like that, or you're locked down or whatever. It's just so much you can do with it without having to go far.
Yeah. I've been scrolling as you talked there.
Yes.
I'm now looking at the beetle and butterfly page, which is where probably page 73.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I love doing this kind of insect work, but I rarely have found that sort of insect. I mean, we've got different insect life here in Japan, but
Yes.
that is fascinating. Just looking at that, it looks like almost like a kiddie's toy, but it's a real live insect, and it's crazy stuff.
Yes, it was just, I think that's the only insect I found that afternoon. I was walking through the woods, looking for insects to photograph. So, of course, didn't find any, but I did, apart from this beetle. And it worked out quite well.
Yeah, wow. And a few birds. We got a cash register. The incense stick shots, they're really I find those very attractive. The colors, and then the Chinese writing on there. I'm assuming it's Chinese. It looks.
It is Chinese.
Yeah, it's Shanghai. Yeah,
in Shanghai. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And again, beautiful shallow depth of field. I'm probably going to have to stop here, because I've pretty much gone through your whole book, and people won't need to buy it if we talk about much more.
Yes.
But it's very, very nice. Okay. One last one. The Jaguar, the car. You've got the Jaguar motif thing there.
Yes.
That's a really nice shot too. Very, very clean. It's either it's just been polished, or you were busy with the
I think I was busy brush. A combination of the two, but there were a few dust spots in that picture. But those photos are interesting because they show how, it's an example of why an extension tube or a close-up lens is a good thing to have with you. But you can go to something, these were just taken at a classic car show, and I realized that the hood ornaments look really nice. And so you get up close, and you can make some nice pictures from them. And it just helps you get a bit more variety to your photos. Say if you're shooting some regular photos of the cars, you can get up close and take some detail shots as well. And it gives you something a bit extra.
It's very nice. So I mean, it's obviously I'm not a huge macro photographer, but I do enjoy messing around with it. And I think that's the thing with macro. As you mentioned a few minutes ago, it's a great way to keep yourself in touch with your camera and do stuff. Probably a lot of the time for me, just as a form of relaxation. And I imagine that that's the same for a lot of types of photography. If it's a hobby, as a profession, it's a different story. But I think, although I do professional work, I'm also just very much in love with the act of taking photos and messing around with stuff. So it's macros one of the great ways of doing that. And I went for a walk this afternoon. I'm finally getting out of another massive busy period, and I've been trying to get out for walks every few days. And I just put a few jars in my pocket and came back with some wild flowers. And I was going to go down to the river and get some plankton today, but I thought, no, I'll put a flower in there instead. So I've got them on the table behind me, and I'll mess around with that tomorrow. So your book is obviously going to help people to do that sort of stuff, and it's a great little read there. So where can people go to find it?
Yes, it's on my website, creativephotographer.com. And
Okay.
that's got a hyphen in the middle of the name there. And then they
Okay.
just click through to the store and they find it there.
Okay. Excellent. So I'll put a link to that into the show notes as well.
Okay.
And is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with? Any other links or anything
No, I
else?
think that would do. I mean, that link will take people through to my website, and so if they want to learn more, they can look through the articles and sign up for the newsletter and that sort of thing. So, no, I think that's good.
Okay,
I don't believe
excellent.
giving people too many links, otherwise,
too many options.
Send them to the place that's where they can see all the good stuff.
Well, it's like they're saying, give people too many options and they'll choose none of them. So,
well, that's right.
Okay,
and
so
I don't really use Instagram or anything like that these days.
Yeah.
So website's best.
Okay, excellent. Well, Andrew, it's been really nice catching up again for the first time in 10 years or so.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. How have you been in general? Just everything okay?
Life-wise? Good. I mean, I can't remember where I was last time we spoke, but it might even have been when we were in Shanghai. And if not, it would have been when we were living in New Zealand. So I don't know if you're aware that we're living back in the UK now, where we moved back here about 7 years ago and settled down in South Devon and, really enjoying it. So, it's been good. Everything's worked out really well.
Wonderful. So, it's been nice to catch up. And I will, we'll maybe do it again. Try not to make it another 10 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you do anything else interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, really, thank you very much, Andrew, and we'll catch up again soon. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, which comes with various tiers of benefits depending on your contribution. Although all tiers provide access to the full blog posts for more than 770 episodes, as well as access to the MVP community. For further details, check out the Patreon page at mbp.ac/Patreon. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye-bye.